that's the way it is with true friendship. When your friends succeed, there shouldn't be properly envy in you. You should be excited about their position.
Butch talked about that.
Yeah.
Butch was talking about how his friendships, personally and professionally, really motivate him more so than create some type of tension or this unhealthy competitiveness. It's like
that was the
you
interesting
are
thing about
a
the
power
fighter.
for him.
Yeah, that was the interesting thing about the fighter pilot culture in the Navy is sarcasm was our love language, and we constantly ribbed each other, and everything was a competition. From every time we dropped bombs on a target, who had the best score, who had the best landing grades. Everything we did was this intense competition. But I got to tell you, there was never any. There wasn't envy or selfish ambition. I think we were all pushing each other to be better in that environment. And it was really, and I've never seen anything to replicate it quite, exact like we had on the ship. But here you have the most competitive type alpha guys. Every one of these dudes was pretty much like top of his high school, Eagle Scout, whatever, all these guys all competing together to make each other better than they were. And yet the friendship was tighter than I've ever seen. And that was kind of the beauty of naval aviation. That's the environment that Butch and I grew our friendship in, is I got to watch him as a slightly older guy ahead of me who was a war hero who became an astronaut. And I've cheered him along all the way. And the neat thing about Butch, you can tell when you talk to him, he is just as relatable and real when he talks to the cashier at a Dollar General as when he talks to a general or a NASA administrator or a vice president. I mean, he's the same guy with that same East Tennessee accent, which don't you love to hear that out of an astronaut?
Oh, man. To have it, because I noticed it when he was talking, I was like, man, look at that Southern boy up there taking care of business. That's so good. Yeah. But there's an authenticity about him. There's a genuineness. But I see it in you. I see it in Josh too. I see it in our team. Like when you surround yourself with people that have a genuineness, a core value of authentic personality, it's easy to be around. And I would suspect that you guys were really good teammates in everything that you guys have done professionally, but also personally.
Yeah, and really one of the other things about it that's interesting about naval aviation, and Butch didn't share, you always have straight men and the humorous guy, right, in every event, but Butch was always like the most intense. You can tell he's cheerful as all, but
he's full of joy.
Full of joy and smiling. But he's more the straight man, and then I was more the guy that was supposed to keep everything light. I mean, even if we're talking about the Lord, I'll always kind of bring it back down to reality, like the sewage smell we're getting right now. But
he soars high above us.
Yeah,
we're down here with.
But all these things would happen. We were when we were young guys on a carrier. We would spend time together. He and I would spend time together every time we'd pull into port. We'd go hiking or biking. We had these little ratty one-speed Schwinn bikes that we'd take off so we could drive all around.
Gosh,
and I'll never forget.
You went mountain biking on a one-speed.
Yeah,
that does sound like some Navy stuff.
I'm gonna tell you what, the military didn't used to pay much. I would have made more money delivering pizzas than flying jets.
You couldn't afford the 10-speed.
Exactly.
To get the single speed.
Yeah. So Butch and I were mountain biking once, and we met our squadron at this sounds exotic, I know, but anyway, we were on the French Riviera.
Oh, oui.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So we pull in. There's the beach right there, and Butch and I are hiking and mountain biking, and my squadron all got together down there in this little crescent sandy beach on the coast there by San Rafael, and we were all hanging out. Those guys are hanging out drinking. Butch and I were the only teetotalers that I knew of in the Navy, and so we're looking
I think for the entire history of the Navy.
So we were looking for something else to do, and we noticed up on this cliff, these dudes were cliff diving, like climbing up these rocks, this near sheer rock, and jumping off. And I look at Butch, and he looks at me, and I'm like, "I'll do it if you'll do it." And he goes, "Let's go." So we started climbing up this thing, and it looked high, but about halfway up, we realized it was really high. Well, at this point, all our buddies are now they're the USA contingent, being ugly Americans like we're supposed to, in a foreign country. They're down there, and as we climb up higher and higher, they're like, "See, Butch, USA." And so we're like, now we're like, yeah. So we climb to the top of this
National
thing.
pride is involved now.
Yes. We're representing here. So we get up to the top of the cliff, and I had done some high diving off 3-meter boards, whatever. I'd done doubles and triples and that kind of stuff when I was a younger guy. And but I got to the edge of that thing and I peered over and I thought, oh, no. And Butch looked and he gets to the edge and he looks at me and I look at him. It's a whole lot further than it looked from down there on the beach with all the buddies, Now they're just chanting up a storm, USA, USA. And, I'm like, Butch, I mean, this is serious. And he goes, yeah. The guys that we'd seen jumping were like professional cliff divers. I mean, doing these beautiful things. So he looks at me, he goes, I'll back down if you do. And I said, we're going for it. And so I climbed back up and the cheers start again, USA, USA. And I jumped off and I found
you went first?
Right then,
you went first?
And I found out right then why he's an astronaut and I'm not. He evidently handles wide open spaces better than I do. I get about halfway out and I start tipping forward. I'm just trying to do a straight down, I start tipping forward. Now I'm backpedaling and, trying to do like a Looney Tunes in the sky, I'm backpedaling and I start screaming, ah! And I got about right here when I hit. Bam! Almost knocked me out.
Oh.
I had a red welt that went from here all the way across.
That's when all those cheers go from USA, USA. Ooh!
Oh yeah, I got that. But then I had something even more valuable. I had the pride and respect of all those. They all stand up and are clapping as I weakly swim over.
America.
And I had a huge bruise for weeks. Butch somehow jumps off and stays vertical.
Of course he does.
He's fine.
He's a better pilot.
And that was pretty much.
Hey, that's the difference between the nugget and the hook.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, for sure.